Welcome to Monk's Temple. Please, come in and settle yourself. You can sit or lie down, whatever allows you to be comfortable and present. The journey we begin today is a long and gentle one, like walking a forest path at dusk. We are not here to learn tricks or shortcuts. We are here to remember an ancient, gentle art, the art of understanding others not through force, but through presence, not through analysis, but through compassionate observation. This wisdom comes from the heart of Buddhist practice, from the Buddha's own teachings on mindfulness, clear seeing, and the interconnected nature of all beings. To understand another, we must first learn to be still. So, let your breath become easy. Let the sounds around you just be sounds. Let your body relax. Imagine your mind is a deep, clear mountain lake. On the surface, thoughts and reflections come and go, memories of yesterday, plans for tomorrow. Our practice is to let the surface grow still, so we can see through to the quiet depths below. That depth is your true presence. And from that quiet depth, you can perceive the true presence in others. I will begin with a personal story from when I was very young in my practice. I was tasked with serving tea to a visiting teacher known for her fierce silence. I was nervous, wanting to be perfect. As I poured, my hand trembled slightly, and a single drop splashed onto the polished wood table. I froze inside, ashamed of my clumsiness. The teacher did not speak. She simply looked at the drop of tea, then at me, and then, she smiled. Not a broad smile, but a small, knowing softening around her eyes. With one finger, she touched the droplet, then touched it to her own teacup, mixing it with her tea. She took a sip, closed her eyes, and gave a single, slow nod. In that moment, I understood. My mind had been caught in a story of imperfection, but she was experiencing the tea, all of it, even my trembling drop, as part of the whole, perfect moment. Her perception was not fractured by judgment. She saw my nervousness, accepted it, and integrated it into the experience without a word. She had read my mind not through supernatural means, but because her own mind was so completely present that there was no room for my inner drama to be misunderstood. She saw the whole picture, drop and all. This is our starting point, cultivating a mind that is spacious and still enough to receive the whole picture of another person. Before we explore the specific languages of perception, I gently invite you, if this quiet approach resonates with you, to subscribe to Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you plant a seed in this garden of contemplative wisdom. You ensure these gentle lessons continue to find their way to you, offering sanctuary and insight whenever you need them. It is a simple gesture that helps this community of mindful presence to grow. Now, let us turn to the first and most immediate gateway of understanding, the silent speech of the body. In Buddhism, the body is not separate from the mind, it is the mind made visible. Sensations, postures, and movements are the direct expressions of our inner weather. To understand someone, we must learn to read this physical biography with kindness, not suspicion. A person's posture is their foundational statement. Someone who sits with their spine long, shoulders relaxed back but not forced, is often expressing a mind that is open and grounded. There is a quiet confidence in simply occupying space without aggression. Conversely, a body that is curled inward, shoulders hunched, spine curved, may be speaking of a desire to protect, to hide, or to bear a weight. But we must be careful interpreters. A curved spine might also belong to a gardener who has spent a lifetime tending to the earth, their posture a testament to devotion, not defeat. We read not to label, but to understand the story the body has lived. The hands are perhaps the most eloquent storytellers. Open palms resting upward on the knees speak of receptivity, of having nothing to hide. Clenched fists, even lightly held, often whisper of contained emotion, frustration, resolve, or anxiety held tight. But watch for the unconscious poetry of the hands. I once knew a clockmaker who came to the temple. Even in stillness, his fingers would trace tiny circles in the air, as if adjusting invisible gears. It was not nervousness, it was the rhythm of his life's purpose expressing itself in idle moments. His hands were forever in dialogue with precision in time. When I gave him a broken meditation bell to repair, those tracing fingers came alive with joyful purpose. His hands had told me of his soul's language long before he spoke of his craft. Feet, our connection to the earth, are remarkably honest. When speaking with someone, notice where their feet point. If their torso faces you but their feet aim toward the door, a part of them is already departing the conversation. A gently tapping foot is a metronome of restless energy, impatience, or pent-up thought. Even the subtle shift of weight from one foot to another can signal an internal shift, a change of heart or mind happening right before you. Let me share an original story about reading the body's honest language. This is the tale of the weaver's true pattern. In a village known for its textiles, two weavers vied for the title of master. Ilara wove intricate, dazzling patterns that told stories of gods and heroes. Kira wove simpler, but astonishingly soft, cloths in subtle colors. The village elder, too old to see details, had to judge by touch and feel. He asked each to present not their best work, but to sit and weave a simple square while he observed. Ilara sat at her loom with perfect, rigid posture. Her hands flew with dramatic, precise movements. But as she wove, her right foot tapped a constant, frantic rhythm on the floor, and her jaw was set so tight a muscle jumped in her cheek. She wove beauty, but her body spoke of strain, competition, and fear of failure. Kira settled at her loom with a gentle sigh. Her posture was relaxed, yet attentive. Her movements were fluid, not rushed. Her breath synchronized with the shuttle's pass. Her hands were steady, and her face was calm, with a soft focus in her eyes that was not on the elder, but on the thread itself. Her whole body expressed a conversation with the material, not a performance for an audience. The elder did not need to see the cloth. He walked to each weaver and placed a hand on their shoulder. At Ilara's shoulder, he felt tension like coiled wire. At Kira's, he felt a warm, humming calm. The cloth captures the state of the weaver's being, he said. Ilara, your pattern will be perfect, but it will carry the tension of its making. It will be art to hang on a wall. Kira, your cloth will carry peace in its very fibers. It will be a comfort to wrap around a crying child or to wear on a weary soul. The title goes to the one whose body speaks of harmony with the work, for that harmony is the true masterpiece. Kira's body had revealed her mindful, present engagement, the essence of her craft. The elder had read the weavers, not their tapestries. From the grounded language of the body, we now turn our attention upward, to the most luminous and expressive landscape, the human face. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are impermanent, arising and passing away. Nowhere is this truth more beautifully and immediately evident than on the canvas of the face. Emotions bloom and fade like clouds crossing the sun. To read a face is not to trap these clouds, but to appreciate their ever-changing form with gentle, non-judgmental awareness. The face can present a composed portrait to the world, but its micro-expressions, the fleeting, involuntary flickers that pass in less than a second, are the unedited whispers of the heart. Consider the mouth, the gateway of spoken language that holds volumes in its silent shape. Lips pressed into a thin, firm line often form a sealed door. This may indicate determination, disagreement, or a conscious withholding. It is a gesture of containment. In contrast, lips that are gently parted, soft and relaxed, form an open gate. They suggest a mind at ease, receptive, breathing in the moment without defense. And then, there is the universe contained within a smile. The social smile is a polite upturn of the corners, a gesture of courtesy. But the true smile, the one that begins in the heart and floods the entire being, is unmistakable. It engages not just the mouth, but causes the corners of the eyes to crinkle into radiant fans of lines, lifts the apples of the cheeks, and seems to emit a gentle light. This is the smile of genuine joy or warmth, a smile that cannot be manufactured by the face alone. It is commanded by the spirit. I remember an old gatekeeper at a mountain monastery. His face was a map of wind-carved lines, usually set in what seemed a permanent, neutral scowl. Visitors found him intimidating. One winter morning, after a silent night of snowfall, I arrived early to find him already outside. He was not sweeping. He was standing perfectly still, gazing at a single, perfect icicle hanging from the temple eaves, catching the first pink light of dawn. As the sun touched it, setting it ablaze with fire, his entire face transformed. That stern, lined mask melted away. A smile dawned, slow, deep, and filled with such pure wonder that his eyes nearly disappeared. In that moment, the gatekeeper's essential self was revealed, not a stern guardian, but a devoted witness to the daily miracles of the world. That heart smile taught me more about his true nature than years of gruff interactions ever could. The forehead and the space between the brows are the scrolls of thought and concern. A vertical furrow between the brows speaks of concentration, deep thought, or worry, a mind focusing its energy inward. Horizontal lines rippling across the forehead are the waves from a cast stone of surprise, doubt, or the effort to grasp a new, complex idea. I once hosted a renowned scientist, a skeptic of anything beyond empirical data. During a discussion on consciousness, he listened with polite, clinical detachment. But his forehead was a fascinating display. As concepts of awareness without an object were mentioned, fine horizontal lines would appear, shift, and dance across his brow. A silent, physical record of his internal intellectual struggle. He was not dismissing, his very physiology was engaging at a profound depth. Seeing this, I knew to speak slowly, to leave spacious silence between concepts, allowing his brilliant, processing mind the room it demanded. The face, in its totality, is a symphony of subtle movements. A slight flaring of a nostril. An almost imperceptible tightening of the jaw. The briefest widening of the eyes. To read the face, you cannot stare aggressively, which will only cause it to tense and mask itself. You must soften your own gaze, taking in the whole picture from your anchored place of calm, allowing the information to come to you. It is a practice of receptive observation, a gentle listening with your eyes. Now, let me share an original story about the silent language of the face in a context of hidden truth. This story is called The Ambassador's Smile. Long ago, two neighboring kingdoms, Avalon and Lyr, existed in tense peace. To cement a treaty, Princess Anya of Avalon was to marry Prince Corin of Lyr. At the grand betrothal ceremony, the Lyrian ambassador, Lord Tavish, presented the princess with a magnificent, ancient necklace as a gift from the prince. He gave a speech dripping with honeyed words about union and future joy. The court of Avalon was pleased. But Princess Anya, trained from childhood in statecraft and observation, watched not the necklace, but the ambassador's face. As he spoke of unbreakable bonds, his smile was broad, but it stopped precisely at his lips. The skin around his eyes remained smooth, unmoved. When he mentioned Prince Corin's eager heart, a tiny, almost invisible tick flickered at the corner of his left eye. When he placed the heavy necklace around Anya's neck, his fingers were steady, but as he stepped back, his gaze dropped to the necklace's central gem for a fraction of a second too long, not with admiration, but with the cold focus of a jeweler checking a setting. That night, Anya did not wear the necklace. Instead, she summoned her most discreet jeweler. "Examine this," she said, "not for value, but for intention." The jeweler found not poison, but something subtler. The magnificent central gem, while real, had been cleverly fitted into the setting last. The original setting was slightly worn, sized for a different, smaller stone, a family heirloom, perhaps. The message was not assassination, but insult and deceit, giving a grand gift that was, in its heart, a hollow replacement. Anya confronted her father the king with her observations, the smile that didn't reach the eyes, the nervous tick, the possessive glance. She theorized the gift was a showy placeholder, and that the true Lyrian family treasure was being withheld, signaling they did not consider the alliance truly equal. The king, initially skeptical, sent quiet envoys. They discovered Anya was right. The true, heart of Lyr gem remained locked in the Lyrian queen's vault. The marriage treaty was paused, and new, more honest negotiations were forced. Anya had read the ambassador's face. His words spoke of honor, but his micro-expressions and focused gaze had spoken of deceit and condescension. She understood that the face often reveals the truth of the intention behind the ceremonial mask. Shall we move to the next silent language, that of the windows to the inner world? Let us now turn our gaze to the most revealing windows of the inner world, the eyes. In Buddhist teachings, the faculty of sight is intimately linked with insight. To see clearly is to understand. We often speak of the eyes as windows, but I invite you to consider them as still, deep pools reflecting the boundless sky of consciousness. When your own inner sky is clouded with thought and reaction, the reflection you see in another's eyes will be distorted, showing you only your own weather. But when you are present and calm, you can gaze into those pools and perceive the true climate within. Whether it is the calm sunlight of peace, the gathering gray of sorrow, or the quickened spark of joy. The eyes are silent, continuous broadcasters. A steady, soft gaze that rests upon you is a gift of shared presence. It says, "I am here with you in this moment." Conversely, eyes that dart and flicker like minnows in shallow water are often tracing the contours of an internal escape route. The person may be physically present, but their awareness is searching for an exit. From the conversation, from a difficult feeling, or from a truth they wish to avoid. This is not an accusation of deceit, but an observation of a mind not at rest with what is happening now. I recall a government inspector who once visited our remote temple, assessing it for a historical preservation grant. He spoke eloquently about cultural value and civic duty. But as he detailed the generous funding, his eyes performed a different dance. They never settled on the ancient murals he praised. They scanned them with an appraiser's detached calculation. They flicked to his assistant's tablet, to his watch, to the distant gate. His pupils were constricted, tiny pinpoints in a sea of pale blue. In the subtle language of the body, constricted pupils can speak of a mind that is calculating, defensive, or recoiling from genuine connection. I served tea and remained quiet. When I finally asked, "What piece of history in your own life feels most worthy of preservation?" his ocular landscape changed. For a fleeting second, his eyes lost their focus, turning inward. The frantic movement stopped. A veil of unexpected sadness passed over them. Then, he blinked, the professional shutters came down, and he resumed his official speech. His eyes had revealed a crack in the facade, a momentary touch upon a personal loss that his public narrative was built to obscure. He was not lying about the grant. He was a man whose public role had become a shell, and his eyes betrayed the hollow space within. But the eyes do not work alone. They are framed by the brows, the delicate penance of feeling. A single brow arched in a gentle curve is a silent question hanging in the air. Two brows drawn together in a furrow create a valley of concern, deep thought, or confusion. A brow lifted high in surprise momentarily erases the lines of the forehead, revealing a mind caught off guard, momentarily open and unscripted. I remember teaching a child in the village who was terrified of reading aloud. When called upon, her eyes would widen, but her brows would knot together so fiercely they almost touched. It was not the look of someone who didn't know the words, it was the look of someone bracing for a blow of shame. One day, instead of pressing her, I had her simply trace the characters on the page with her finger, feeling their shapes. As she connected with the characters through touch, her knotted brows began to soften, to unravel. The fear smoothed away, replaced by quiet curiosity. Her brow had told me more about her inner experience, the anticipation of pain, than her stumbling words ever could. There is also the canvas of the eye itself, the sclera, the white. A network of fine red lines is often a map of a weary journey, sleepless nights, prolonged strain, or unshed tears. But this, too, must be read with compassionate context, never cold diagnosis. I once sat with a fisherman at dawn, his eyes webbed with red from the night's labor. A hurried glance might see exhaustion or illness. I simply sat, sharing the silence of the waking harbor. He finally spoke, his voice rough. "My daughter had her first baby last night," he said. I held the little one so she could sleep. My eyes are tired, but my heart has never been more awake. The redness was not a flag of suffering, but a badge of vigilant, loving joy. So we learn, first, cultivate your own inner stillness. Then, with gentle attention, observe the ocular landscape, the steadiness or flight of the gaze, the dilation or contraction of the pupils, the language of the brows, the story in the whites. You are learning to listen with a softer, more receptive form of sight. Let me share another original story, this one about the decisive language of the eyes in a moment of great consequence. It is called the Archer's Truth. In a kingdom where succession was disputed, the old king devised a final test for his two remaining nephews. He took them to the royal archery range at twilight, when vision was most uncertain. Before them stood not one target, but three. A large, gilded target of obvious prestige, a small, weathered wooden target half hidden in shadow, and, far to the side, a simple straw bundle used for practice. "The target you choose," said the king, and the truth in your eyes when you loose your arrow, will reveal the ruler you will be. The first nephew, Aryan, bold and ambitious, immediately selected the golden target. He notched his arrow, his body a picture of concentration. But as he aimed, his eyes were not on the bullseye. They flickered between the target and the king's face, seeking approval, calculating the impression. He fired. The arrow struck the outer ring. His eyes, in the moment after release, showed not satisfaction in the shot, but immediate anxiety about the king's reaction. The second nephew, Kale, a quiet man who managed the kingdom's granaries, stood still for a long moment. His gaze passed over the golden target without interest. It lingered on the small, weathered target, but then moved on. Finally, his eyes settled on the humble straw bundle. He notched his arrow. As he drew the bow, his eyes did not waver. They held a soft, unwavering focus on the straw, not as a prize, but simply as the object of his intention. There was no calculation, no side glance for approval. He released. The arrow thudded squarely into the center of the bundle. The king asked Aryan, "Why the golden target?" Aryan replied, "It is the mark of a champion, fit for a king." The king then asked Kale, "Why the straw?" Kale lowered his bow. "The golden target is for show. The small target is a test of skill. But the straw bundle is what the farmers use to feed the royal stables. Its condition matters to the horses that till our fields and carry our goods. A ruler should see what sustains the kingdom, not just what glorifies it." The king nodded. "Aryan," he said, "your eyes were on me, on your own status. You saw the throne. Kale, your eyes were on the straw, on the foundation. You saw the kingdom. The eyes do not lie about where the mind truly dwells." Kale's gaze, steady and purposeful on the unglamorous essential, revealed a mind rooted in sustenance and service, not spectacle. He had been chosen by the truth held in his own eyes. Now, let us journey inward to the most crucial, yet most often neglected, territory, the landscape of your own mind. The Buddha's path begins and ends with self-knowledge. Before you can accurately perceive the weather in another's soul, you must become intimately familiar with the climate of your own. Your hopes, your fears, your past wounds, and your present desires are like tinted lenses. If you look through the lens of insecurity, you will see judgment where none exists. If you look through the lens of past hurt, you will see threat in a neutral gesture. The first and most important person whose inner world you must learn to read is yourself. This is the heart of Buddhist mindfulness, or sati, the clear, non-judgmental awareness of your own present moment experience. This practice is not self-absorption, it is the cultivation of a clean mirror. By calmly observing the rise and fall of thoughts, feelings, and sensations within you, you see their conditioned, impermanent nature. You learn that a feeling of irritation is not the absolute truth of a situation, but a temporary mental formation passing through the spacious sky of your awareness. This inner disentanglement is what allows you to encounter others without immediately projecting your own story onto them. Your calm self-awareness becomes the stable ground from which you can observe another without being swept away by your own reactions. I learned this through a personal failure. Early in my training, a new monk joined our community. He was meticulous, reserved, and adhered to a self-imposed schedule of silence and work that felt rigid to me. My own nature was more adaptable, responsive to the needs of the moment. I perceived his discipline as cold superiority, his silence as aloof judgment. In my mind, I wrote a story of his disdain for our way of life. Every minimal interaction felt like a confirmation. My own insecurity about being undisciplined colored everything. One evening, during a shared task of sorting temple grains, our methods clashed. He worked in slow, methodical lines. I worked in quick, sweeping sorts. Frustrated, I snapped, "Must everything be a military operation?" He stopped. He looked at me, not with anger, but with a profound weariness. His shoulders, usually squared, slumped. "I am sorry," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Structure is not my preference. It is my necessity. Without it, my mind becomes a stormy sea. The routine is my anchor, not my criticism of you." In that moment, the colored lens of my own story shattered. I was not seeing him. I was seeing my own insecurity reflected back at me, dressed in his form. His behavior was not a commentary on me, it was the manifestation of his own inner struggle with chaos. My failure to read my own mind, to recognize my irritation as my own creation, not his, had blinded me to his reality. It was a humbling lesson in the absolute necessity of inner clarity. Therefore, the foundational training in understanding others is a daily, gentle returning to the self. Sit quietly. Notice the thoughts that pass like clouds. Label them softly, planning, remembering, worrying. Feel the sensations in the body without judgment, the tightness in the jaw, the flutter in the stomach, the warmth in the hands. This practice does not eliminate your inner life, it allows you to know it so intimately that it no longer controls your perceptions. You can have a feeling without becoming the feeling. From this place of inner spaciousness, you can look upon another person and see them, not a character in your own unresolved drama. Let me share an original story about the peril of an unread self and the liberating power of self-awareness. This is the tale of the merchant's reflection. In a bustling port city, a merchant named Rohan was renowned for his sharp deals. He prided himself on reading his clients, knowing who was desperate, who was bluffing, who could be pressured. He believed his success came from this keen external perception. One season, a series of bad investments left him vulnerable. A crucial shipment was delayed, and he needed a loan to cover his obligations. He went to the city's most infamous moneylender, a woman named Silna, known for her ruthless terms. As he pleaded his case, Silna listened in silence, her face an impassive mask. Rohan, feeling her cold judgment, began to exaggerate his other assets, his voice growing faster, his gestures more expansive. He was not lying, but he was performing strength he did not feel. Silna finally spoke. "I will give you the loan," she said. "But the interest is double the usual rate. You are not as secure as you claim. I can see the fear in your eyes." Stung and desperate, Rohan agreed. That night, tormented by the crushing terms, he walked to the city's great canal. The water was still, reflecting the moon and the lanterns of the houses. He saw his own reflection, a man hunched with worry. But as he stared, he saw past his own face to the reflections of the buildings behind him, distorted and wavering on the water's surface. In that moment, a realization struck him. I have been looking at everyone's reflection, trying to read the ripples on their surface, but I have never looked clearly at the source of the ripples I myself create. My own fear is what Silna saw. She wasn't reading my business, she was reading the disturbance in my own being. The next day, instead of scrambling, he did something radical. He sat in his empty office in silence. He observed his own panic, his shame, his feeling of failure. He let them be there without fighting them. As he did, a strange calm descended. From that calm, a clear, simple idea emerged. He would go not to another lender, but directly to his delayed shipping captain's family, with honesty and an offer of shared risk. When he found the captain's wife, he did not perform. He spoke plainly of his trouble and his need. His voice was steady, his eyes held hers without begging or bluffing. Moved by his unexpected sincerity, she revealed a secret: the ship was not lost, but had put into a hidden cove for repairs after a storm. A message had gone astray. It would arrive within the week. The loan was not needed. Rohan was saved not by reading Silna better, but by finally reading himself. He saw that his own agitated energy, the ripples of his fear, had been the primary signal he was broadcasting. By calming his own inner water, he stopped sending out distorted reflections and was able to perceive and engage with reality clearly. His greatest business insight came from turning his perceptive faculty inward. To practice this, begin with simple pauses. Before an important conversation, take 3 conscious breaths. Feel your feet on the ground. Ask yourself softly, what is present in me right now? Just notice. This brief homecoming to yourself will clear the lens of your perception more than any technique for analyzing others. Let us now explore a dimension of understanding that moves beyond the individual and into the space between, the art of listening to silence and absence. In Buddhist philosophy, the concept of sunyata, or emptiness, points to the open, aware space from which all things arise. In human interaction, this is the silent field between words, the pause between breaths, the hesitation before an action. It is in these fertile voids that unvarnished truth often resides, waiting for a quiet, receptive presence to notice it. To perceive this, your own mind must become like that space, open, clear, and utterly still. When someone speaks, we are conditioned to listen to their words. But deep understanding listens to the music around the words. The sentence that ends abruptly, cut off by an unvoiced thought. The laugh that arrives a heartbeat too late, covering a vulnerability. The long, empty silence that follows a difficult question. These are the true punctuation marks of the heart. The Buddha taught mindful awareness of all phenomena, and these subtle phenomena of hesitation and silence are as significant as any shouted declaration. I learned to value this space not from a master, but from a stray dog that would visit the temple gate. He was skittish, would not come close. For weeks, I would simply sit on the step, not looking at him, not calling him, just being present. I would place a bowl of water and some food at a respectful distance, then return to my seat and my breath. The space between us was filled only with the sounds of wind and distant bells. One afternoon, as I sat in this shared, wordless silence, I felt a gentle pressure against my side. I did not move. I did not turn to look. I simply stayed present, breathing. The dog had come and sat beside me, resting his head against my robe. No words had invited him, no gesture had coaxed him. It was the quality of the silent, non-demanding space I had held that finally felt safe enough for him to cross. This is the essence of listening to the silence with another person, creating a non-invasive, patient space where what is real feels safe enough to emerge. This practice requires a deliberate cultivation of pause within yourself. When you ask a question, let the answer land completely. Do not immediately react, analyze, or follow up. Hold a gentle, open attention in the silence that follows. You will be amazed at what unfolds in that fertile ground. People often speak to fill silence out of shared discomfort. When you can provide a comfortable, accepting silence, they sometimes will fill it with what is actually deeply true. Let me share an original story about the profound power held in the unspoken. This is the tale of the librarian's silence. In the great library of Ethel, knowledge was preserved on delicate, timeless pages. The head librarian, Elara, was tasked with identifying a single apprentice to inherit her role. The final test was simple: each candidate would be given access to the forbidden Chamber of Whispers, a room that held the most fragile, unreadable scrolls. Their task was to spend one night there and report what they learned. The first candidate, a brilliant young scholar named Leo, entered confidently. He returned at dawn, eyes bright with triumph. "I deciphered 3 partial scrolls," he announced. "One speaks of lost star maps, another of a king's hidden shame. The knowledge is fragmented, but I have begun to piece it together." He spoke rapidly, filling the air with theories and connections, leaving no space. The second candidate, a quiet, methodical young woman named Maya, entered the chamber. She returned at dawn looking pale but peaceful. Elara asked her, "What did you learn?" Maya was silent for a long moment. She looked at her hands, then at Elara. Her voice was soft. "I learned that the chamber is not silent." She paused again, letting the strange statement hang in the air. "You can hear the dust settling. You can hear your own heart. And, if you sit still enough, you can hear the faint, dry sound of the parchment itself, almost sighing." I did not read the scrolls. I could not. Their ink is faded to ghosts. But I listen to the room they are kept in. It is a room full of the memory of being read, and the sorrow of being forgotten. That is what I learned. Leo had filled the silence with his own intellect, projecting stories onto the fragments. Maya had listened to the silence itself, to what was absent, the readers, the voices, the meaning. She perceived the context and the feeling of loss that defined the chamber's true essence. Elara chose Maya as her successor. When questioned by the library council, Elara explained, "A librarian is not just a decoder of texts. She is a guardian of context, a listener to the story that the object itself tells through its age, its preservation, and its silence." Leo heard words. Maya heard the library's soul. She understood that the most important knowledge is sometimes held not in what is said, but in the quality of the silence that holds it. In your own interactions, practice listening to these spaces. Notice what someone does after they finish speaking but before you respond. Do they hold your gaze, inviting you into their truth, or do their eyes skitter away, as if already leaving the conversation? Do they take a deep, releasing breath, signifying a burden shared, or a shallow, held breath, indicating something still withheld? These silent cues are the whispers of the unedited self. This practice is the deepest form of respect. You are not interrogating. You are offering a sanctuary of attentive quiet where a person's unvoiced truth may feel safe enough to appear. It is in these silent understandings that the most profound human connections are forged, beyond the clumsy limitations of language. Now, let us fold in another essential layer, understanding through pattern and context. This is a deeply Buddhist approach, rooted in praditya samutpada, dependent origination. Nothing exists in isolation. A person's present action is a stitch in a larger tapestry of habits, history, and circumstance. To understand the stitch, you must perceive the pattern of the whole cloth. We now enter the realm of pattern and context, seeing a person not as a single snapshot, but as a flowing river shaped by its banks. The Buddha's teaching of dependent origination tells us that all things arise based on causes and conditions. A person's gesture, word, or reaction does not appear out of nowhere. It is the visible bloom from a seed planted in their past, nurtured by their environment, their habits, their recurring thoughts. To understand someone at a soul level, you must softly perceive the landscape through which their river flows. This is not about judging their past, but about comprehending the shape of their mind as it has been carved over time. A person who is consistently late is not just displaying poor time management in the moment. Their actions speak of a habitual relationship with time, perhaps one of overwhelm, a subconscious rebellion against constraint, or an optimistic mind that believes more can be fit into a moment than is possible. Someone who always volunteers for the hardest task may be revealing a pattern of seeking worth through struggle, or a deep-seated fear of being seen as inadequate. The Buddha taught that we are shaped by our volitional actions. These actions become habits, and these habits become character. By calmly observing the patterns of a person's actions, how they respond to a minor inconvenience, how they treat those with less power, what they consistently avoid or gravitate toward, you gain insight into the very architecture of their heart. Let me share an original story that illustrates reading through context and pattern. This is the tale of the gardener's map. In a monastery famous for its medicinal herb garden, the precious moonbloom plant, which bloomed once a decade and was essential for a rare healing salve, was dying. No pest was visible, no blight upon its leaves. The head gardener, an old man named Hanno, was baffled. A renowned botanist was summoned from the city. He examined the soil, the light, the water, and proclaimed all was perfect. The plant simply chooses to die, he said with a shrug, before departing. A young novice named Lin, who was tasked with sweeping the garden paths, approached Hanno. She was shy, but she spoke softly. "Master Hanno, may I watch the garden for a while?" "Not the plant, but the garden." Puzzled, Hanno agreed. For 3 days, Lin did not touch a tool. She simply sat at different hours, observing. She didn't just look at the moonbloom. She noted which birds landed at dawn, and where. She saw where the shade of the old willow tree fell as the sun moved. She noticed that the monastery's new kitchen apprentice had begun dumping his rinse water in a particular corner every evening, thinking it harmless. On the 4th day, she showed Hanno her simple map. "The moonbloom," she said, "needs the first dawn light to open its pores for dew." For 10 years, that light came unimpeded. But this spring, the sparrows have built a new, dense nest in the cedar directly east. They are not pests, but their nest is so thick it delays the first direct light by a full hour. The plant's rhythm is disrupted. Also, she pointed to her map, The rinse water from the kitchen flows underground along this old stone channel. The soil near the moonbloom is now slightly more alkaline than the rest of the bed. Not enough to kill, but enough to weaken. It is not one cause. It is a pattern of small changes in its world. Hanno checked her observations. She was precisely correct. He thinned the sparrow's nest, without harming it, and redirected the kitchen runoff. Within a week, the moonbloom began to recover. Lin had understood that the plant did not live in isolation. Its life was a pattern of relationships, with light, with water, with the activities of the world around it. She read the context and saw the pattern of interference, where the expert had only looked for a single, obvious cause. Apply this to people. The colleague who snaps over a small request is not just angry. Look at the pattern. Is it always when they are interrupted mid-flow? Is it always before a major deadline? Is it only with certain types of requests? The pattern reveals the true trigger, the blocked creative flow, the pressure of time, the feeling of being disrespected. You are no longer reacting to the snap, you are understanding the conditions that created it. This approach requires a shift from asking, "What are they doing?" to, "In what world, under what conditions, does this action make sense?" It is a practice of compassionate ecology, mapping the inner landscape by observing how a person habitually navigates their outer one. I will share another personal reflection on patterns. For years, a woman from the village would come to the temple on the first rainy day of each season. She would not pray aloud. She would simply stand under the eaves of the main hall, lift her face, and close her eyes for exactly 7 breaths as the rain fell, then leave. To a casual observer seeing her once, it might seem a random poetic moment. But observing the pattern, the seasonal trigger, the precise number of breaths, the specific location, spoke a deeper story. I never asked. One particularly heavy monsoon day, she came, performed her 7 breaths, and then, instead of leaving, she sat on the step. I brought her a towel. She said, "My husband proposed to me in a rainstorm, right here. He said the world was washing itself clean for our beginning. He's been gone 5 years now. But on the first rain of each season, I come to remember that clean beginning. For 7 breaths, that's how long our first kiss lasted." Her patterned action was not random, it was a ritual of love and memory, a thread of continuity woven into the fabric of her grief. Seeing the pattern allowed me to understand the profound meaning within a single, simple act. To practice this, begin softly. In your interactions, gently notice not just what someone does, but the circumstances in which they do it repeatedly. What consistently brings a light to their eyes? What topic always makes them subtly withdraw? You are not building a dossier, but drawing a compassionate portrait. You are learning to hear the melody of their habits, not just the isolated notes of their moments. Shall we delve into another story that weaves together these principles of pattern and presence? Let us now move into the realm of integration, where all these streams of perception flow together into a single river of understanding. This is the practice of holistic awareness, where you perceive a person not as a collection of separate signals, eyes, face, body, silence, pattern, but as a unified field of being. In Buddhism, this is akin to the practice of samatha, calm abiding, where the mind rests in a state of open, non-selective awareness. From this settled place, You can receive the totality of another person without fragmenting them into parts for analysis. You are listening to the symphony, not isolating the instruments. This integrated perception feels less like reading someone and more like feeling the weather of their presence. Does their cheerful story match the slight downward turn of their mouth when they think no one is looking? Do their words of confidence align with the subtle tremor in their resting hands? Does the energy in the room feel light and open when they speak of a difficult topic, or does it grow dense and heavy? You are sensing for harmony or dissonance within the whole expression. Your own calm presence is the tuning fork. When you are still, you can detect the subtle vibrations of incongruence or the resonant hum of truth. This is not a practice of suspicion, but of deeper connection. You are not looking for lies, you are looking for the full, complex, and often contradictory truth of being human. Sometimes the integrated truth is that a person is offering kindness from a place of personal depletion, or speaking bravely while their body hums with fear. By perceiving this wholeness, you can respond to the deeper need, not just the surface statement. I will share a final, original story that embodies this integrated way of seeing. It is called The Healer's Hands. In a valley between mist-shrouded peaks, there was a healer named Anya. She was known not for miraculous cures, but for an uncanny ability to know exactly what ailed a person, often before they spoke. People said she had vision in her fingertips. A skeptical young physician from the city, Dr. Elias, traveled to observe her, convinced there was either fraud or folk superstition at work. He watched as she received patients in her simple hut. She did not immediately ask for symptoms. She would greet them, offer a cup of mild tea, and sit with them in silence for a few moments, her hands resting open in her lap, her gaze soft and diffuse. Then, she might ask a simple, seemingly unrelated question: how does the light fall in your home in the morning? Or, have the nightingales returned to the old grove this year? To Elias, it was nonsensical distraction. But he began to notice correlations. The woodcutter who complained of a searing pain in his shoulders and spoke bitterly of the nightingale's silence also held his body rigid, as if still braced against a heavy weight. Anya prescribed stretches not for his back, but for his hands and wrists, and a poultice for his shoulders. She also suggested he walk to the grove at dusk and simply listen, even if no birds sang. The pain, she said, was not just in the muscle, but in the memory of song. The merchant's wife, who suffered from a mysterious fatigue and described the harsh, direct morning light in her courtyard, sat with a perpetual slight squint, even in the soft light of the hut. Anya gave her a simple tea but also a piece of dark, sheer silk. "Hang this in the eastern window of your sitting room," she said. "Let the light arrive softened." She also asked her to tend to a pot of mint by that window each morning. Elias, frustrated, finally confronted her. "This is not medicine. You are talking about birds and curtains." Anya smiled. "I am asking about their world. The body does not live in a jar. It lives in a life. The woodcutter's pain is in his shoulders, but its root is in his spirit, which misses the beauty that once accompanied his labor. The silence of the birds he loved is a weight he carries. The merchant's wife is exhausted because she begins every day being aggressively met by light, her nervous system jolted into defense before breakfast. I am not just treating the shoulder or the fatigue. I am treating the person who lives in a landscape that is, in small ways, hurting them. The body speaks of the whole life. She invited Elias to sit with the next patient, a young boy brought in for a stubborn, barking cough. "Do not diagnose," she said. "Just be present." The boy's mother did all the talking, her words rapid and layered with worry. The boy sat curled tightly, picking at a loose thread on his sleeve. Elias watched, his medical mind trying to categorize. Then, he remembered Anya's way. He softened his gaze. He noticed the boy's eyes darting to the window every time his mother mentioned the schoolmaster. He saw how the cough seemed to erupt not from deep in his chest, but as a tight, dry sound from his throat, always when the mother's voice reached a certain pitch of anxiety. He felt the room's atmosphere, thick with maternal fear and a child's helplessness. When the mother finished, Anya was quiet. Elias, surprising himself, spoke softly, not to the mother, but to the boy. "Is it difficult," he asked, "to hear the birds outside when people are talking inside?" The boy, startled into contact, nodded slightly and whispered, "The sparrows fight over the feeder." Anya nodded. "A lot of competition for a little space," she mused. To the mother, she said, "He needs a task that gives him air and a little sovereignty." Could he be in charge of keeping the bird feeder full? A quiet task, alone, each morning before the house stirs. She also gave a honey and lemon infusion for the throat. Weeks later, Elias learned the boy's cough had vanished, and he was speaking more at home. He finally understood. Anya was reading the integrated field, the boy's defensive body language, curled in, the trigger, anxious talk of school authority, the somatic symptom, a throat cough of constriction. And the emotional context, a home atmosphere of perceived competition mirrored by the sparrows. She didn't attack the cough. She changed the boy's relationship to his environment, giving him a small, peaceful domain of control and purpose. She had healed by understanding, and then gently shifting, the complete picture. This is our ultimate goal. To become like Anya. To sit with another person, with our own minds quiet and open, and to perceive the integrated truth of their being. The physical, emotional, and contextual strands all woven together into a single, coherent story. From that deep understanding, our response, whether it is a word, a gesture, or silent companionship, becomes truly helpful, truly kind. It meets the person where they actually are, not where we assume them to be. Now, let us bring all of this together in a final, gentle contemplation. A practice to carry this integrated awareness into your daily life. We arrive now at a place of synthesis, where perception meets compassion, and understanding blossoms into connection. In the Buddhist tradition, this is the union of prajna, wisdom or insight, and karuna, compassion. Clear seeing, without the warmth of compassion, is merely clinical observation. Compassion, without the clarity of seeing, can be misguided. Our journey through the languages of the body, the face, the eyes, the silence, the patterns, and the self all converge here, in the heart. The ultimate purpose of learning to understand others is not to gain advantage, but to alleviate suffering, both theirs and our own. It is to build bridges of genuine meeting across the silent spaces that separate us. When you perceive another person from this integrated, compassionate space, something subtle shifts. You are no longer an observer analyzing a subject. You become a witness sharing a moment. Your perception becomes an act of recognition. I see you. I see your struggle, your joy, your hidden weather. And in seeing it, I honor it. This recognition is one of the most profound gifts we can offer another human being. Let me share a final, original story that embodies this fusion of wisdom and compassion. This is the tale of the potter's choice. In a town divided by a deep river, there were two potters. On the east bank, Master Li produced flawless, elegant vessels, glazed in perfect colors. He was celebrated, his work sold for high prices in the city. On the west bank, old Kenta made simple, slightly irregular bowls and cups. His glaze was uneven, his shapes humble. He traded his work for food or gave it away to the poor. A great flood swept through the valley, destroying both workshops. In the aftermath, the town elders pooled their resources to help one potter rebuild, hoping his work could restore the town's spirit and commerce. They convened a council to decide whom to support. Advocates for Master Li argued for his perfection, his prestige, his economic value. Advocates for old Kenta spoke of his kindness, but struggled to point to the merit of his lopsided bowls. The wisest elder, a woman named Suri, proposed a test. She asked each potter to come to the riverbank, where the flood had left a deposit of thick, cold, gray clay, mixed with silt and debris, the ugliest, most difficult clay imaginable. "Make something from this," she said. "Not tomorrow. Now. With what you have within you." Master Li knelt, touched the clay, and his face tightened with disgust. "This muck," he said. "It is unfit. It has no plasticity, no purity. To make anything worthy from this would be to make a mockery of craft." He stood, washed his hands in the river, and walked away, waiting for proper materials. Old Kenta knelt in the same mud. He sank his hands into the cold, gritty clay. He was silent for a long time, feeling its texture. He then began to work, not on a wheel, but with his hands on the ground. He didn't try to force it into a fine shape. Instead, he formed a rough, deep bowl, wide and solid. As he worked, his face showed no judgment, only a focused attentiveness to the material itself, its resistance, its coldness, its story of flood and destruction. When he finished, he placed the crude, gray bowl before the elders. "It is not beautiful," he said. "But it is strong. It will hold water. It will not crack in the sun. It is what this clay wanted to be." Suri then addressed the council. Master Li sees only material fit for his pre-existing idea of beauty. He requires ideal conditions to express his skill. Old Kenta sees the inherent possibility within the material itself, however flawed. He does not impose his will, he collaborates with the truth before him. Our town is not a gallery. We are this riverbank after a flood. Mixed, damaged, and in need of holding. We do not need perfect vases. We need vessels strong enough to hold our shared struggle, made by hands that can see the worth in what is broken. We choose Kenta. Kenta's workshop was rebuilt. He did not start making perfect pots. He made strong, simple ones from the reclaimed clay of the floodplain. And people came, not just for bowls, but to sit with him. They felt seen by him, because he had the eyes that could perceive the value in the rough, the cold, and the difficult. His perception was an act of compassion, and his compassion was the source of his true perception. This is the essence of soul-level understanding. It is the willingness to meet the raw, unglazed material of another human being, their struggles, their imperfections, their history. And to see not what they should be, but what they are, and to find the inherent strength and beauty within that truth. It is a creative, collaborative act. Now, let us close with a final, guided integration. A practice to carry this compassionate perception from this space into your world. Make yourself comfortable. Let your breath find its own gentle rhythm. Feel the weight of your body, anchored, here. First, bring your awareness to yourself. Scan gently from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. Notice any sensations without judgment. This is your own clay, your own vessel. Send a whisper of kindness to any place that feels tight or tired. I see you. I honor you. Now, from this place of self-kindness, bring to mind someone you care about. Picture them. As you hold them in your awareness, practice this integrated, compassionate seeing. See their posture. Notice the set of their shoulders. Is there a burden there? Send a breath of softness toward that burden. See their face. Notice the expression around their eyes. What feeling resides there? Meet that feeling with silent acknowledgement. Remember their patterns. What do they love? What worries them? Hold this knowledge gently, as you would hold a bird in your hands. Feel the space between you and them, even in memory. Is it warm? Is there a story there? Let the space be just as it is. Now, hold this whole, integrated impression. Their body, their spirit, their story, in your heart. Do not try to change it. Do not fix it. Simply understand it. And from your heart, let a simple, silent wish arise. May you be well. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. Feel how this wish bridges the space. This is the culmination of understanding, compassionate connection. Now, gently release the specific image. Let the feeling of connected awareness remain. Carry this feeling with you like a soft light. As we end our time together in Monk's Temple, remember this: the skill of understanding is not in the noticing of details, but in the quality of the attention you bring. It is attention infused with calm, woven with insight, and warmed by compassion. When you look at the world from this place, you are not just reading life, you are greeting it. You are meeting soul with soul. Thank you for walking this long, peaceful path. May the clarity and compassion you've cultivated here illuminate your steps and touch all those you meet. Walk gently. See deeply. Meet the world with a kind heart. We have walked a long path together, from the stillness of our own minds to the vast, interconnected landscape of human understanding. We have explored the languages spoken by the body, the face, and the eyes. We have listened to the profound wisdom held in silence and in pattern. We have turned the light of awareness inward to cleanse our own lens of perception, and we have learned to integrate all these streams into a river of compassionate seeing. Now, as our journey in this shared space draws to a close, let us rest in a final, simple knowing. This art we have explored is not a collection of techniques to be mastered, but a way of being to be cultivated. It is the natural flowering of a mind that is present, a heart that is open, and a spirit that is humble. The Buddha taught that all suffering arises from misunderstanding the nature of self, of others, of reality itself. The path to the end of suffering, therefore, is the path of clear understanding, yatthadasana, seeing things as they really are. When you see another person as they really are, beyond your projections and desires, you cannot help but feel compassion. You see their struggles as part of the human condition, their joys as fleeting miracles to be celebrated, their essence as inherently worthy of peace. This is the greatest gift of deep perception. It dissolves the illusion of separation. You realize that the longing to be understood and the capacity to understand are the same longing, the same capacity, beating in every heart. Let me leave you with one last, very short story, a parable about the source of all true understanding. It is called the Two Springs. High in the mountains, two springs bubbled from the earth. The first spring was eager to reach the valley below. It quickly channeled itself into a narrow, fast-moving stream, cutting a deep groove in the mountainside. It moved with such speed that it could carry nothing with it, no silt, no leaves, no reflection of the sky. It arrived in the valley sharp and cold, useful for turning mill wheels, but no one lingered by its banks. The second spring did not rush. It pooled gently into a wide, still basin before beginning its descent. In this basin, the water rested. It allowed the silt to settle, becoming clear. It reflected the clouds and the pine trees. Insects skimmed its surface, birds drank from it. When it eventually overflowed to begin its journey downward, it did so in a wide, shallow stream that meandered through the meadow. It moved slowly enough to nourish the roots of plants along its banks, to warm in the sun, to be a home to tadpoles. People would come to sit by this stream, to rest, to see their own faces reflected in its clear, gentle flow. The first spring was perception without presence. It was the frantic collection of data, the glance at the eyes, the note of the crossed arms, the memory of a pattern, without the still, receptive basin of your own calm awareness. It leads to a sharp, cold, and isolated kind of knowledge. The second spring was perception born from presence. It allowed all impressions to settle in the wide basin of your mindful attention. There, the true picture could clarify. From that clear, still pool, understanding flowed outward naturally, as a nourishing, connecting, reflective presence. People felt seen by it because it first knew how to be still. You are the spring. Your practice is to become the wide, still basin. All the languages we have discussed, the bodies, the faces, the eyes, they are not to be grabbed at by the fast-moving stream of your analytical mind. They are to be allowed to settle into the calm pool of your compassionate attention. From that place, understanding arises not as a conclusion you have reached, but as a clarity that has dawned. So, as you go from here, do not carry a list of techniques. Carry a question: am I the rushing stream, or am I the still basin? In any moment of confusion or disconnect, you can return to this. Breathe. Feel your feet on the ground. Allow the silt of your own reactions to settle. Become the clear pool. Then, look, listen, and feel. What you see from that place will be true. How you respond from that place will be kind. This has been a journey of returning. Returning to presence, returning to compassion, returning to our shared humanity. These are not new skills you have learned. They are ancient truths you have remembered. They have always been within you, like the clear sky behind the passing clouds. Thank you for your profound presence, for your willingness to see and be seen. This is the heart of Monk's Temple. May you carry this stillness with you. May your seeing be clear, your heart be soft, and your presence be a sanctuary for all who cross your path. Go in peace. The temple bell rings for you.